Hey, Benjamin Tucker here. I'd like to start this off by saying y'all need to go to the Ingleside um city website and look up the city council meeting for August 9th to get a view of how you take it. But this is how I took it, and I'm just giving some of the highlighted points. Yes, this is actually Enbridge's highlighted bullet points that they presented to the city council at that meeting for a production distribution facility for blue ammonia and blue hydrogen, they call it.
So here's some of the project scope and details that are relevant. So as I mentioned, the facility, so the ammonia and hydrogen production facility will be located on the northeastern side of the fenced area. The estimated project at this stage is kind of the tagline is closer to $1 billion. That's inclusive of all the ammonia production, the hydrogen production, the feed of natural gas into the facility, and the carbon capture equipment and hardware that will be used to really tackle a low carbon or a carbon intensity that will diminish the overall carbon intensity of the industrial area. It's obviously a construction of a new processing plant. This is a grassroots development. The target capacity of the plant is 1.4 million tons per year of anhydrous ammonia and a site production of 200 tons per day of hydrogen. We're targeting to capture, as I mentioned before, targeting to capture and permanently sequester 90% plus of all the CO2 produced in this industrial process. So some of the details that are relevant, that are the state of the state of the art and best available technology for some of these projects are, for example, containment of the ammonia storage will be it's a double wall full containment tank. Aside from controls and the latest industrial systems and controls to allow for a safe and reliable operation. And as I mentioned, the process entails receiving natural gas via pipeline into the Enbridge Ingleside Energy Center. Then it feeds the processing unit whereby hydrogen will be produced, and then hydrogen will be used to produce ammonia. You store the ammonia in tanks that are not the tanks that are currently existing there. These are tanks that will be specific and segregated for the ammonia, for the handling of ammonia. And then the ammonia will be loaded out for export. The project is currently investigating or looking into the local demand for blue hydrogen. And there's a burgeoning development in terms of what the industry requires in terms of new energy. Hydrogen and ammonia are both two components that match up everything that the industry and the world is looking for, which is low carbon intensity and a safe and reliable fuel and a building molecule for life that's not directly a heavy hydrocarbon. So some other details about the project scope is, so water is needed for ammonia, for the production of ammonia. And because there is a water system that will be needed, big part of the focus of the initial and detailed approach to engineering will be to design an optimal water recycling and water usage system that also minimizes wastewater. So we've had preliminary meeting with San Patricio Municipal Water District, and we've reached out to the city of Ingleside to discuss water distribution system, water distribution needs. This is one key area of focus that we have. Even though we're in the preliminary stages of engineering and design and definition mostly, this has been one thing that is up front in front of everybody that's dealing with the project. So we are currently having an engineering study to assess the issue about water. So the other thing that is relevant is what are the required permits. Aside from the regulatory permits that are normal and akin to processing facility, such as what TCQ would give you and other entities, both on the state level and the local level, obviously there is a permit that is bound by this council. It's a permit with the city of Ingleside. And we've reached out to the city of Ingleside to start discussing this so that we get in front of any and all requirements that might have to be addressed, so that we have a good dialogue in terms of how we permit this in a time efficient, but also in a very complete fashion. Interesting thing about this is there's a lot of talk these days in the industry in and around carbon sequestration and what that actually means, and that what that basically says is you start developing industrial activity, and the end goal is that you end up reducing the carbon intensity so that you aid the fuel requirements of the industry, the fuel requirements of the larger complex, but you do not emit as much CO2 or as much separate carbon monoxide, as you would when you were processing, let's call it gasoline or any other fuel. So a lot of the thought process and the preliminary design and the definition concept of this facility will be focused on making sure that we maximize carbon sequestration. So if you think about two things, carbon capture, and obviously permanent carbon sequestration, which is key, right? You can capture it, but the idea is that you actually are able to sequester permanently, not just put it in a little box and then it flies away. So two areas of focus, as you might have looked into, is use and management of water and the ability to be a very efficient carbon sequestration project. And aiding all of this and aiding the reduction in the carbon footprint, the solar panel farm that we're proposing towards the western side of the facility aids in that fact, in which we'll create the ability to generate 60 megawatts of power through a solar panel arrangement that will enhance the carbon neutrality of the entire project.
What I'm mad about the most of is the possibly loss of all those trees. Trees that work 24/7, turning carbon monoxide into the oxygen that we breathe. Trees that clean the rainwater that filter through the roots into our groundwater reservoirs. Trees that help to control the flooding, erosion that holds the topsoil in place. Trees that act the nourishment of ecology that is shared by almost every organism on the planet Earth. If you or your child likes birds, squirrels, or butterflies, you can thank a tree. This is also land that was inhabited by Indians hundreds of years ago, with thousands of pieces of artifacts still out there. They're going to tell you they just picked it all out. Not true. This land should be left as sacred land and not touched by destructive industrial hand at play. That's how I feel. In conclusion, Port of Corpus Christi does not care about small towns. They don't care about Ingleside on the Bay, Ingleside, Port Aransas. All they care about is the port and profit, with no concern to environmental damage. Come to your local council meetings when there's issues going on, when industry is wanting to come in to destroy more land. Stand up and say something to stop it. That's the only chance that we have. Thank you.